We usually have to pay a premium for cars that are built with passion, cars that appeal to your emotions and all your senses. Fortunately, there's a brand that gives us all that while still being relatively attainable. They have Takumi craftsmen that produce works of art on wheels. They strive to make all their products human-centric and are guided by the Jinba Tai philosophy so we could be as one with their automobiles. Of course, that could be no other brand except for Mazda, the car manufacturer that has one of the most pronounced and distinguished brand identities as far as I'm concerned, because anything that wears a Mazda badge has a distinct look and feel. But what happens when you put this badge on something a bit more utilitarian that was co-developed with another manufacturer? Will it still have the Mazda DNA? Well, stick around to find out. We all know that this pickup shares the same platform with the Isuzu D-Max, but the similarities between the two vehicles are mostly under its skin, because this exterior sports the Kodo Soul of Motion design language, which makes it distinctly Mazda. There's just no mistaking this for any other vehicle. Unlike most pickups, the BT-50's appeal is more elegant than it is rugged. But that doesn't mean it's any less capable, because its design still ticks all the boxes in terms of what you'd come to expect from a pickup. For starters, you get an approach angle of 30.4 degrees, a departure angle of 23.8, and a breakover angle of 24.2. Weighting capacity is a respectable 800 millimeters. The variant we have here is the 4x2 with manual transmission. And despite being a base model, it is still fairly well equipped. For instance, you get LED headlights and halogen fog lights. Along the side, you're treated to these gorgeous 17-inch alloys that are wrapped in Bridgestone 235/65 series tires. Behind these wheels are disc brakes up front and drum brakes at the back. Now, I love how the step boards aren't overdone, and I think they work nicely with the clean look of the BT-50. You also get power folding side mirrors and a healthy ground clearance of 240 millimeters. At the back, you still get a touch of Mazda with the circular design elements in the taillights. Now, it would have been nice to get an assisted liftgate because opening and closing this does require a bit of elbow grease. However, it does reveal 1,120 liters of space. You also get over 1,000 kilograms of payload capacity. Towing capacity is 3,500 kilograms braked and 750 kilograms unbraked. It's also nice to see a bed liner and a reverse camera, which is a must for any pickup. Mazda has always been known to give us lavish and well-equipped interiors, and despite this being the base model of a utilitarian vehicle, they've still managed to integrate the Mazda appeal that we've come to expect. You get soft touch materials on the edge of the dashboard. Now, there are some hard plastics, but everything you interact with is nice to the touch. The armrests on the door cards are nice and soft, and you also get a padded area here on the side of the center console where you typically rest your knees. I just wish that the center armrest got the same treatment because it is rather hard. A leather-wrapped steering wheel also would have been a nice touch, but again, this is the base model, and at least you can adjust this for rake and reach. The seats in this variant are made of fabric, but they're extremely comfortable. There's good bolstering, and if there's anything that's lacking, I'd say it's under thigh support. Ergonomics are excellent because everything is well within reach and easy to operate. There are physical knobs and buttons for most of the key functions. As far as storage is concerned, there's more than enough. You get a dual glove box, space for your phone over here, cup holders, more storage under the center armrest, and the pockets on the doors are big enough to fit almost anything. Moving on to the instrument cluster, you get a colored LCD display flanked by an analog tach and speedometer. The infotainment system in the base variant comes in the form of the 7-inch touchscreen. Now, the screen is physically bigger, but the display doesn't cover all the real estate. If you want a bigger screen, you're going to have to spring for the 4x4 variant, which has 9 inches. It has a 9-inch infotainment screen, but I'm happy to report that all variants come standard with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. What isn't as obvious is the fact that you get foam fillers throughout the cabin, tighter seals for the doors and windows, and sound deadening carpets, and they all work collectively to give you better noise suppression. You also get this infrared reflecting windshield that blocks out the sun. So as you can see, the sun's shining on my face, but it's not unbearable. At the back, there's plenty of space, and as you can see, there's adequate head and leg room. You also don't sit too upright. Now, the seats can also be folded to increase interior storage capacity. As far as amenities go, all you get are grab rails, rear seat pockets, and rear air vents. So from where I'm sitting, I can certainly say that Mazda's DNA still manages to shine through. But the big question is, will it still be apparent in the way this thing drives? Well, let's find out. Now, to be completely fair to this vehicle, there's really no sense in comparing it to a Mazda CX-9 because that's a totally different vehicle. They each serve a different purpose. But nonetheless, anything that wears the Mazda badge has to deliver sensational driving dynamics. So before anything else, let's discuss power delivery. Now, under the hood, you get a 3-liter turbocharged engine that puts out 190 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque. Now, before you compare this to other pickups that have slightly higher horsepower and torque figures, I want to stress that peak torque is available as low as 1,600 RPM, so it always feels light on its feet. Now, the good thing is that throughout the entire rev range, you're getting at least 80% of the torque, and that's over 400 Newton meters. Now, one thing I did notice is that the throttle pedal is really deep, and I think that's by design because it really helps you modulate the your throttle inputs. And that comes in really handy when you're doing light off-roading or going over slippery terrain because it makes modulating the throttle extremely easy. You will have to put your foot down quite a bit if you want more power, but there is plenty of it. And I'm sure you won't be left wanting as far as power is concerned. One thing that caught me by surprise is how efficient this is because despite having a rather big displacement of 3 liters, I'm still averaging 10 kilometers per liter in the city. That's with heavy traffic, and you can get as much as 15 to 16 kilometers per liter out on the highway. And that's sensational, especially considering how high gas prices are these days. Now, as far as comfort is concerned, the ride is rather bouncy, but that's extremely forgivable in a pickup truck. What sets this apart from other pickup trucks is the fact that it has a double wishbone suspension at the front, and the leaf springs at the back only have 3 leaves as opposed to 5. So it makes the ride less stiffer compared to other pickup trucks. The concern some people might have is the fact that you only get drum brakes at the back. But really, it's a non-issue because there's never a problem in trying to get this thing to stop, no matter how fast you're going. And the fact that it's a manual transmission means you can also do some engine braking. But that really isn't necessary because the braking power is more than adequate. Now, as far as steering feel is concerned, there really isn't any issue because it's light despite being a hydraulic power assisted steering system. And the steering ratio is actually fairly responsive. The turning circle isn't the tightest thing on the planet, but for something this huge and this long, it is more than acceptable. So overall, the driving dynamics are pretty good for what this is. Now again, you can't compare it to a unibody Mazda. But for a body-on-frame vehicle with leaf springs at the back, there really isn't anything to complain about. The Mazda BT-50 4x2 with manual transmission can be yours for only 1,390,000 pesos. And that's exceptional value, especially considering that this comes with Mazda's free 5-year service plan. And despite this being a utility vehicle with a shared platform, I'm happy to report that you can still feel Mazda's DNA and the way it looks and feels. Now, as far as the drive is concerned, it's as good as any pickup can get. Thanks for watching.